Coming up on today's Airborne, Boeing reveals details of its battery improvements. Harrelson heads for the South Pole, and Curiosity wins the Collier Trophy. I'm Ashley Hale. Welcome to Airborne on Aero-TV. A comprehensive set of improvements that will add several layers of additional safety features to the lithium-ion batteries on 787 commercial jetliners are in production and could be ready for initial installation within the next few weeks. These improvements, which continue to undergo extensive certification testing, will allow operators to resume commercial flights with their 787s as soon as testing is complete, and the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration and other international regulators grant their final approval. Some of these improvements are: 4 new or revised tests have been added to screen cell production, which now includes 10 distinct tests. Boeing, Thales, and GS-UASA have also decided to narrow the acceptable level of charge for the battery. To better insulate each of the cells in the battery from one another and from the battery box, 2 kinds of insulation will be added, and the battery case will be set in a new enclosure made of stainless steel. This enclosure will isolate the battery from the rest of the equipment in the electronic equipment bays and will ensure there can be no fire inside the enclosure. Testing to gain FAA approval of the battery enhancements has already started, with the FAA's permission. There's flying around the world, and then there's flying around the world. And we've reported earlier here on ANN that Bill Harrelson is doing just that the hard way in a Circum-Polar flight. Most recently, globe-girdling Lancair IV pilot Bill Harrelson made the long overwater trip from Recife, Brazil to Punta Arenas, Chile, where he prepares for one of the most challenging and potentially hazardous legs of the journey. Harrelson's plans are to stop around the world in a few very long segments: Bangor, Maine, to Recife, Brazil, to Punta Arenas, Chile, Christchurch, New Zealand, Honolulu, Hawaii, Fairbanks, Alaska, and back to Bangor, Maine. Bill Harrelson and his home-built Lancair IV left Bangor, Maine a few days back, navigated the 3,685 nautical mile leg to Recife, and made it to Chile Sunday morning. Weather in the South Pole region will be a critical factor in the next leg of his journey. In a Monday email from Bill to Aero-News, Harrelson notes that, quote, "The models show that Wednesday will likely present the first weather opportunity for the crossing, so my plan is to depart Wednesday afternoon. An afternoon departure from Punta Arenas will give me afternoon light until Antarctica, where the 24-hour sun will keep me in light until morning in the eastern longitudes on the way back north. I hope to land in Christchurch before noon. I should have a 30-plus hour window of no darkness. I am very aware that Wednesday is the equinox and that winter in Antarctica will follow very, very quickly. If I can't get across Wednesday, my chances of continuing the journey will decrease rapidly. The polar record has been a goal of mine for a very long time, but I'm still sane enough, although barely, to know when to throw in the towel. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Wednesday," end quote. We also understand and have been informed directly that the story we did on the difficulties he's experienced in maintaining his insurance coverage resulted in enough exposure to draw the attention of another insurer, Nation Air, who has apparently insured this trip worldwide. ANN will update the story as information presents itself, or you can follow the tracking yourself at go.spidertracks.com/fleetpro/public/ZQ pilot. The Pentagon has put an end to the challenge by Beechcraft for the award of the long-disputed LAS contract to Embraer and its U.S. partner, Sierra Nevada Corporation. Tom Patton reports.
Ashley, the Air Force said that, quote, "unusual and compelling circumstances were behind the move, and that it would move ahead with plans to build the Super Tucano airplanes in Jacksonville, Florida." It was the second time Embraer and SNC had won the contract, and the second time Beechcraft had cried foul over the deal. The first time the program was delayed by over a year while the contract went back out for bids, which resulted in the second award to Embraer and SNC. The Pentagon gave no other explanation as to why they were shutting down the challenge brought by the Kansas plane maker. But the company, which has just emerged from Chapter 11 bankruptcy, does not plan to make this the last word in the dispute. In a statement, Beechcraft called the move, quote, misguided, and said it will lead to the loss of American jobs and substantially higher costs to American taxpayers. The company said it will continue to review its options. For Airborne, I'm Tom Patton.
ANN congratulates the NASA GPL Mars Science Laboratory Curiosity Project team on winning the 2012 Robert J. Collier Trophy. The announcement was made recently by the National Aeronautics Association. The citation on the award will read, quote, in recognition of the extraordinary achievements of successful landing of Curiosity on Mars, advancing the nation's technological and engineering capabilities, and significantly improving humanity's understanding of ancient Martian habitable environments, end quote. The Collier Trophy is awarded annually for the greatest achievement in aeronautics or aeronautics in America with respect to improving the performance, efficiency, and safety of air or space vehicles, the value of which has been thoroughly demonstrated by actual use during the preceding year. The list of Collier winners represents a timeline of air and space achievements marking major events in the history of flight. The Collier Trophy will be formally presented at the annual Robert J. Collier Trophy Dinner on Thursday, May 9th, 2013 in Arlington, Virginia. You're watching Airborne, more in a moment.
Redbird Skyport is a multifaceted aviation laboratory charged with developing innovative solutions to the issues facing the industry.
It started out as a vision for a laboratory where we could objectively measure the systems and the processes that we were developing. Being able to put some objective measures behind the anecdotal evidence that we have about the value of motion and the application of this technology is very, very important, because until we can objectively measure it and play that data back, we can't design training systems that make the best use of it.
For more information about Redbird flight simulations, as well as Redbird's new Skyport, visit www.redbirdflightsimulations.com or www.redbirdskyport.com.
Welcome back. If you'd like to suggest a story for Airborne, Aero-TV, our website, or podcast, drop us an email to news-spy@aero-news.net. Light aircraft designer and manufacturer Cub Crafters has announced that the FAA has issued Night VFR approval for its CC-18-180 Top Cub. Cub Crafters' Top Cub was already a capable and versatile utility aircraft with a gross weight of 2,300 pounds, a useful load of 1,100 pounds, and class-leading short-field capabilities. The addition of Night VFR expands the Top Cub's capabilities. A number of changes were made to the Top Cub cabin for Night VFR certification, including new backlit placards, instrument illumination, fuel sight gauge lighting, and glare shields are provided. In addition, several interior surfaces are now finished in non-reflective black, and modern LED taxi and landing lights have replaced incandescent fixtures. All new Top Cubs will include the complete Night VFR lighting package as standard equipment. The International Space Station has its first Canadian commander. Astronaut Chris Hadfield assumed command last Wednesday. During the change of command ceremony with his predecessor, Commander Kevin Ford, Hadfield spoke of his pride in representing Canada and commanding the world's space science laboratory. During his command, he will oversee station operations, including 100 scientific experiments, and will be responsible for the safety of the crew and the station. Hadfield launched to the station on December 19, 2012, and will stay aboard until May 13, 2013, when he is due to return to Earth in a Soyuz capsule. He is the second national outside of the US and Russia to command the station and its crews. Meanwhile, Expedition 34 Commander Kevin Ford and his flight engineers landed their Soyuz TMA-06M spacecraft in the steppe of Kazakhstan, northeast of the remote town of Arkalyk Friday, at an estimated time of 11:08 p.m. Eastern Time. The 3 Expedition 34 crew members had said goodbye to 3 of their International Space Station crewmates earlier on Friday afternoon, March 15th, when they entered their Soyuz TMA-06M spacecraft and undocked at 7:43 p.m. Eastern Time after 5 months in space. Despite fog, low visibility, and below freezing temperatures, Russian recovery teams were on hand to help the crew exit the Soyuz vehicle and adjust to gravity after 144 days in space. The trio originally launched aboard the Soyuz TMA-06M spacecraft from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan in October and spent 142 days living and working aboard the International Space Station. And now it's time for Aero Video of the Week. On a routine fun flight, when one of the passengers needed a potty stop, the only option is an emergency landing on a frozen lake. And then the ice fishing, skating, and shenanigans begin. Enjoy this week's AVW found on YouTube by searching for emergency landing on a lake. Twins who've celebrated only 4 birthdays have both just earned their pilot certificates. But how can that be, you ask? Well, Dan and Josh Fredrickson were born on February 29th, leap year. So while they've only celebrated 4 birthdays, they were of legal age to begin and complete their pilot training, which they did on March 1st, 2013, the first day they were age eligible. Both took their check rides at the Pella, Iowa Municipal Airport, and the only real question was which twin would take their check ride first. The answer was Josh. Both he and Dan did their training with Classic Aviation, the FBO at the airport. Since Dan had flown first during the last lesson before the check ride, Josh was first to fly with the examiner because the boys simply take turns. When asked if they would recommend learning to fly to other high school students, Dan responded, quote, "I would tell them to go for it. Hard work pays off, and in the end, it's very satisfying." And Josh responded, quote, "Flying is just about the best thing that has happened to me, so I would recommend it to other students." When asked if they had heroes in aviation, Dan picked Bob Hoover, and Josh picked Chuck Yeager. Well, that's our program. Get comprehensive, real-time, 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. I'm Ashley Hale. Thanks for watching.